Like most people, cancer has affected a lot of people near and dear to my heart and my life. My father's uncle, Frank Del Vescovo, twice survived non-Hodgkin's lymphoma before the third time it took his life. And my uncle, Bill Lynch, survived thyroid cancer and is still healthy to this day, and I'm grateful to have him around. But today I'm going to talk more about somebody who's close to the heart of Rush Nation, and that is Josh Snyder. My second day on the job, October of 2013 in training camp, Josh was the very first fan I had ever met. At the time I met him, he had a mask on. He was immunodepressed because he was fighting lymphoma. And obviously the treatment took quite a toll, but it allowed him to still come out and enjoy Rush hockey and watch the guys in training camp. And we created this friendship over that one encounter and that one day. And he would constantly go back to the Mayo Clinic for all of his treatments to make sure that he stayed ahead of the curve. And so because of that, our conversations always started off with me asking him how his health was and him asking me how the team was doing. And that was just the relationship that Josh and I had, listening all the time from the Mayo Clinic. Josh was a fighter and he beat lymphoma. And about a year later, he was diagnosed with leukemia. And it was a very tough road, as all cancers are. Not that anyone is any easy, but you know, it's definitely got some bite to it. And it was the same deal that year that we had just joined the ECHL, the 14-15 season. He was back in the Mayo Clinic taking his treatments and got a very successful stem cell transplant. And he beat leukemia, so beat it twice. Unfortunately, after he beat it the second time, the leukemia came back very aggressive. And the doctors told him that there was nothing that they could do for him. And he told me at a tip-a-player event. And one of the things that Josh wanted to do as a lifelong supporter of the Rush for as long as they'd been around, and as a former member of the Booster Club, he wanted to drop the puck at Rush game, which was an easy thing to do. So we made sure against the Fort Wayne Comets on March 4th that he was going to come and drop the puck. From the time we had set that up to the time I saw him that night, Josh unfortunately deteriorated rapidly, and it was breathtaking to see just the shock. You see him 2 weeks ago to then, and how bad it got. It was reality altering, and it put things into perspective. And so that night, I talked with Coach DeSantis and I asked if he could give the pregame talk because they didn't know how much time he had left. It was months, and at that point, it was getting down to weeks, maybe even days. And Coach DeSantis allowed him to come into the locker room and talk to the guys. And so he was on and off between a wheelchair and walking on his own power because that's how bad it had gotten. And so he had wheeled into the locker room with me, and he was in awe seeing the locker room and seeing the guys all getting ready to go for the game. And that night, we had him drop the puck. And in the utmost of classiest gestures from our captain, Winston J. Chief, he told the bench, as I shake his hand after he drops the puck, to come off and shake his as well. And so our entire team came right off the bench and they shook Josh's hand. Well, in an utmost act of class from the Fort Wayne Comets bench, the captain, Jamie Shasma, said the same to his team, but nobody really knew it. And so here I am in pregame calling what's happening on the ice, and Jamie Shasma and every Fort Wayne Comet came out, and it moved him to tears, and it moved a lot of us in the crowd to tears. 3 days later, he was put in hospice, which we all knew that the clock was running out and we didn't have much time left with Josh. And I got to see him the last day that he was with us, that morning, right before the game against the Steelheads. And I'm asking him how he's doing and seeing if he's comfortable. And all he wanted to know was what was the game plan to beat Idaho that night. I get in the broadcast, and in the second period, just on a whim, I thought I'd send a message to his wife and ask how he was doing, and apparently she was right outside my booth. And as I saw her, she was crying, and I knew that he had passed and he was gone. And so I went up to her and I said, he's gone, isn't he? And she said, about 20 minutes ago, and I'm sorry to tell you like this, but I wanted you to be one of the first people to know. And she said as he passed, he was listening to the Rush broadcast because he wanted to know if they were going to beat those Steelheads. And I'm a man of faith, and so after I had heard he passed away, I looked up and I said, okay, Josh, you can be a factor in this game now. 1-1, we need something. And sure enough, Lindsey Sparks scored shorthanded and we won 2-1 that night, and I knew he had some kind of a hand in it. That moment forward, I dedicated every broadcast, as long as I'm with the Rapid City Rush, to his name. Such a long-time listener and a long-time dedicated fan of this team. And his heartbeat and his passion for hockey and his passion for life and his children and his family will never, ever be forgotten. My name is Mark Binetti. I'm the Director of Media Relations and the voice of the Rapid City Rush. And tonight, I fight for my friend, Josh Snyder.